Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Learn Math. In this session, we are going to explain radical equations. Radical equations are those type of equation in which a variable appears in a radical. Variable appears in a radical. The radical can have any index. The examples of radical equations are square root x plus 2 is equal to 5. This is an example of a radical equation. Then another example is 3x plus 4 plus x plus 5 is equal to 0. Another example may be 9x plus 1 cube root is equal to x plus 3 and so on. Here the variable x appears in the square root. Here x appears square root. Here x appears in a cube root. Now how we solve a radical equation? How to solve a radical equation? Solving a radical equation, we follow a procedure in which step number 1 is to isolate radical having variable. Isolation means that we will write the radical having a variable on one side. Now in these examples, x plus 2 is equal to 5. This radical is isolated. In the second example, 3x plus 4 plus x plus 5, the radical is not isolated. In the third example, the radical is also isolated. So to isolate the radical having variable in the second example, we will simply keep the radical having variable 3x plus 4 is equal to minus x minus 5. This is isolation of the radical. Then step number 2 is to raise the equation to index of radical. If radical is square root, then we square the equation. If radical is cube root, then we take cube of the equation and so on. So if we have nth root, we have to raise it by n power. E.g., for square root, we will take square of equation. For cube root, we will cube the equation. And the third step is, if we have still a radical remaining in the equation after raising it to the nth power, then we will repeat step number 1 and step number 2. So still have a radical in the equation, repeat step 1 and 2. Otherwise, if we have got rid of the radical in the equation, solve the equation. When the radical equation, the radical has been gotten rid of, we have squared it and the radical disappears from the equation, or in case of cube root, we have raised it to a cube power, and the radical is disappeared, then we will solve the newly obtained equation, and after solution we get solutions of the equation. Now in a radical, after solution of a radical equation, we have to insert each solution into the equation and to find whether the radical equation is true for a solution. If it is true, if it is true, then it is a solution. If it is false, it's not true, then that solution is called extraneous solution. Means that is not solution of that radical equation. That may be a solution, but that is not a solution of that radical equation. So after solving each radical equation, we have to insert each solution into that radical equation. And if the equation is true for that solution, that is the solution we are required to find. And if the equation, the radical equation is not true for the solution we have inserted in it, that is called extraneous solution. Now types of radical equation, we have three types: type 1, type 1, type 1. Type 1, we have a single radical in the equation that is of the form ax plus b is equal to cx plus d. We have a single radical in the equation. That may be a square root, that may be a cube root, or any nth root that appears single time in an equation. That will be type 1. Type 2 are the radical equations which have more than one radical. That radical appears 2, 3, or any times. So the general form of type 2 is x plus a square root x plus b is equal to square root x plus c. That is the second type. And the third type, we have more than one radical, but the polynomial of a variable, let's say x square plus px plus m, are identical, only the constant term are different, is equal to q. Here the polynomial x square plus px are same under each radical, only the constant term m and n are different. So this is third type of radical equation. A separate video for each type with example has been created, and the link is given in the description. You can find detail and example of each type in the video. Hopefully this is easy to understand. It has helped you in giving some intuition of the radical equations. If you find this helpful, Please like the video, subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you can get notified whenever a new math problem is solved or a new phenomena or term in mathematics is explained. Thank you.